Qualcast Nation, we have a very special guest, an interview that I've been waiting to line up for a while, not only because Alan is creating some great innovation through LightIt, but just I think he's going to be, in my opinion, one of the greater minds when it comes to our healthcare innovation. So, Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So just a little bit about you, Alan. Like, how did LightIt come to be? Was this something that you envisioned early in your career, or did you kind of stumble into this space?
Well, I always considered myself an entrepreneur. Before LightIt, I tried to found other companies without success. I'm a software engineer. That's my background. So are my two co-founders. So while we were finishing college, we wanted to start a business together, and we wanted to create a product, but we didn't have any ideas. So in the meanwhile, we decided we were going to offer software development to other entrepreneurs building their products. So that's how it started, and then it went really well. So we started LightIt as a software development agency. Quite at the beginning, we realized that if we were going to succeed with this company, in order to maximize the value that we provide, we needed to focus on an industry and become experts in that field. So while we were seeking industries that were interested to us, healthcare resonated a lot. Firstly, because, well, this is more on the personal side, but I was always very interested in healthcare. I considered becoming a doctor. I ended up becoming an engineer instead, but it was one of my passions. But we always thought that in order to build a great company with a great culture, you need to have a great purpose. And we thought that the purpose of doing what we best know how to do, which is building tech products that could improve people's lives, was very meaningful. And healthcare was it's probably one of the value that we create with building products in the healthcare space is very clear.
Absolutely.
That was one of the reasons. But then during the pandemic, which it was at the time that we were having these strategic conversations, we realized that the industry was transitioning through a process of starting to leverage more technology. It's one of those industries that has always been behind in terms of innovation. So the pandemic was kind of, the kickoff that the industry needed in order to start innovating. And in a way, it was forced to do that, right? Because during the pandemic, if you were having an encounter with your provider and it was a non-urgent reason, then it needed to happen remotely or virtually. So gradually, the industry started to incorporate more and more technology and realize the benefits. Realize that even though it's risky because of all the compliance and regulations, the ROI is usually positive. And, I think the timing was really good. It was an opportunity, and now I think we made the right choice because innovation is actually happening in healthcare, and we're seeing things like AI or generative AI being applied in healthcare, which was very hard to imagine a couple of years ago, when healthcare was avoiding these types of technologies, innovative technologies.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time, I must say. And I've lived through this as a physician, the lag when it comes to adopting technology, but also seeing the benefits of how it could improve patient care. And so just out of curiosity, Alan, what's a typical client coming to you? Is it a hospital? Is it clinics? Is it researchers? Like who comes to LightIt?
It varies a lot, and we have many different types of clients. What I can say is at the beginning, it was mostly startups because we were an early stage company, and usually larger organizations like hospitals and enterprise, they look for more maturity and certain track record. But now it's been a while since we started collaborating with way larger organizations and enterprises. So we currently have a combination between startups, which we love because it's more dynamic. It's where innovation is usually happening. But we also managed to get larger enterprise level clients who are also interested in innovation and seeking for an innovation partner like us. So there's unfortunately some names that I can mention, but we are actively collaborating with a project for the US Air Force. We are currently working with 3 different university hospitals in innovation projects. So an area in which we can provide a lot of value that we enjoy doing a lot is working with doctors or medical researchers who have validated a new innovative approach for healthcare that requires or uses technology somehow, and us being the partner to take that idea, that concept, or that research into a real life product that providers and patients can benefit from.
Absolutely. It's exciting. You have help people find this an idea and to help execute how to operationalize it. I'm wondering, Alan, if you could give some cases that that you'd be open to share in terms of clients or companies that approached you and what LightIt has been able to produce. And I know we'll talk a second about the innovation department too, but which I think might overlap. But yeah, can you think of some use cases for our audience?
Yeah, well, I can give you a recent example I'm very excited about. There's a condition called visual snow syndrome. It's a
Which one, sorry?
visual snow syndrome.
Okay.
It's not very known yet. It's a neuro-ophthalmological condition. It's similar to tinnitus, but visual. So there's this organization called the Visual Snow Initiative, who one of the main objectives is spread the word and make the medical community of different countries recognize this condition and also provide help to patients. Patients who have this condition usually suffer a lot because it affects their quality of life, and many times it has some comorbidities like anxiety or depression. Unfortunately, there's no approved protocol or treatment yet, but in collaboration with the University of Oxford, they found out that there's a specific an adaptation of a specific treatment called MPCT, or mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy. So an adaptation of that and a 6-week protocol based on that type of meditation can help patients with their symptoms. And they were able to prove this by self-reported symptoms, but also they were able to observe differences in the levels of activity in the parts of the brain that are responsible for processing vision. So they were able to prove that it works using functional MRIs. So they have the subjective and objective ways of measuring this. We partner up with those 2 organizations to build an app that could allow any patient who is suffering from visual snow anywhere in the world to be able to follow this protocol at home. So that's one of the recent examples of one of the projects that we're about to release in the next couple of weeks to the market.
I love it. I love it. Any projects come to mind, Alan, when it comes to leveraging artificial intelligence? Because I know, as we alluded to before, this was kind of a a black box. People weren't really tapping into it, despite the technology being there for years. Is this number one? Is this something that your company often leverages? And number two, can you think of a use case that has really improved patient outcomes?
Yeah, absolutely. So AI has been being used by healthcare for a while as a discipline. Recently, there's this new wave of generative AI that everybody's talking about, and it's like people are finally realizing how incredible or incredibly useful AI can be. Because with generative AI, you can interact directly with AI to perform daily tasks, right? So finally, you have this sort of assistant. Everybody's familiar with ChatGPT and how you can ask information and use it like an assistant to redact, draft emails or whatever. It's also being used in the clinical space because it can help providers with workflows. For example, if you want to process an encounter with a patient that you recorded and get a SOAP note output out of it, or something that you can upload to an EHR, then this technology is probably going to make your life easier. The problem is around compliance, right? Because if you're using patient information, there's PHI there, and there's some concerns about how safe or compliant it is to expose that information to certain models. I think generative AI is going to bring massive amount of value to healthcare. I think that aiding providers with their administrative tools or tasks is just the low-hanging fruit. But I think there's another more ambitious opportunity to interact directly with patients. So it's clear that there's a shortage of providers, of medical workers. We've seen it during the pandemic. So I think that a combination of providers plus AI is gonna help us make healthcare cheaper. It's gonna help us make healthcare better and provide a better experience to patients, communicate with them more often, and thus getting better outcomes of their conditions, or the protocols that they're following. This is a less explored area because, of course, it's more risky. It's not the same thing when you're building a medical copilot that interacts with a provider, and that provider is trained to verify what part of that information is correct, and if there's a piece that it isn't, it's somebody that can identify that. But patients, most of the time, they can't. So there are more concerns about providing or creating patient-facing AI. I'm not saying it's not possible. I definitely think it is. It just requires more complexities from a compliance, from a security, and from a technical perspective. Currently, through our innovation department, we created 2 companies that have to do with AI. The first one is Compliant ChatGPT, and it's a HIPAA compliant version of ChatGPT for providers to use to automate or be more efficient on their day-to-day operations. And it has some built-in modes and features that are specifically useful for providers. And then we built this other spin-off company called Puppeteer, which we aim for it to be used at talking to patients or taking care of patients. So you asked me about use cases. A use case that we think is very interesting is using AI to help a patient achieve their goals through time. So if a patient is trying to lose weight, then an AI that can periodically reach out to the patient, ask them about what they ate, and
Coach them.
encourage them, teach
Mm-hmm.
them, integrate it with wearable devices. So you integrate a scale, you know how much they weigh every day. If they didn't weigh themselves that day, you can send them a reminder. You can track how much water they had. You can ask them to take pictures of their food, to try to estimate calories. That's an example, but in general, many times medical outcomes are not as good because patients don't follow what the doctors prescribe. It happens after certain surgical interventions. A patient went through heart surgery. You need them to follow a very strict schedule of medications, nutrition, exercise. You want them to walk X amount of steps per day. If you use AI in combination to traditional healthcare services, in addition to a provider making sure that they're doing okay, you can track in real time what they're doing and send them notifications. You can track how many steps they walked, and if it's 6 p.m. and they haven't met their goal, you can remind them of how important it is for them to follow what's been prescribed by the doctor in order to prevent having risks, for example.
Amazing. So clearly, there's you're seeing the potential benefit of leveraging AI for patient care, and to me, it's only a matter of time where this will be widely adopted. So I like the idea of you guys being ahead of the curve. You mentioned the innovation department. Are there any other departments that you want to highlight from LightIt?
We have different departments. Most of them are what you expect from a software development and consultancy agency. So we have our technical department, we have our product department, we have our design department, quality assurance, compliance. The innovation department, I think it's something that is a bit unique to see in a software development agency, but we think it's crucial because besides identifying needs and creating products, it's what allows us to have the skills to provide value in projects for clients that are innovative and also be constantly creating know-how around emerging technologies and disciplines that we think are relevant in order to apply in the projects that we're working for when we work for clients.
No, absolutely. And just looking into the future, Alan, where do you see LightIt, say 3-5 years from now? Where do you see the company going? Because you guys have clearly grown fairly rapidly. You're helping lead some innovative projects, which I think will honestly help transform the way we approach healthcare. What's the vision? Where do you see yourselves in a few years from now?
So hopefully we will be, LightIt as a company would be larger in terms of team size and larger in the amount of success stories or clients that we manage to create an impact for. But besides LightIt, I see the future not as an isolated company, but as an ecosystem, and that's what we are trying to create here. So we have the software development agency, we have these two AI companies that are targeting specific needs within the healthcare industry. We have a very small healthcare newsletter called the DHI, and now we're launching a micro VC called Enlighten Ventures or Enlighten Capital. We are looking to do small investments in healthcare startups that we really like. So this is an ecosystem in which all the pieces, all the companies benefit from each other and collaborates with each other. So besides growing LightIt, our goal is to grow the ecosystem, the different companies within the ecosystem, and also potentially creating new companies that fill specific gaps that we think it's strategic to fill.
Oh, and there's so many gaps. So I feel like there's so many opportunities. And I like the mindset, Alan, of creating that ecosystem where there's a collaborative approach, because I have a feeling that we will be knocking on your door to be able to come up with some creative solutions together, whether that's through our research team or my critical care team or our own innovation team over at Lionheart. So I really appreciate, Alan, you taking the time. Where can people learn more about LightIt or any of the initiatives that you mentioned?
Probably the best place would be our website, lightit.io. And then for the different companies, then it's compliantchatgpt.com or getpuppeteer.ai for the other two companies I mentioned.
And I'm a big fan of, I think it's DHI, correct?
Digital Health Insider.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I get all my insights on some of the digital health solutions. So that's a nice Substack newsletter. So thank you so much. We'll add that to the show notes. And thank you for connecting with us. And we got to find a way to see each other in person, my friend. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Uruguay. That's where we started the company. We have offices in Uruguay, Argentina, and the US. And we have a team member in Canada as well. So we'll probably open an office there somewhere in the future.
You heard it here first, guys. Amazing. Thank you so much, Alan.